Call to order the Board of Trustees regularly scheduled meeting for November 15th at 7 p.m.
Call the roll. Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Mr. Haddad?
Here.
Mr. Genoway?
Here.
Simcoe here.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nobody signed in for the hearing?
No.
Additions or deletions?
I have one addition under Public Works. I'd like, just for discussion, we received the bids for the brush pickup, and I'd like to just have a short discussion on that.
Okay. Okay.
Next item is the zoning department.
Oh,
wait, no,
approval of the minutes. Did anybody have any corrections or anything for the November 1st or the November 10th special budget?
You got a copy of them?
No,
Do you want to suspend them until next meeting, or do you want to approve them as?
I mean, I read them.
Did you?
Yeah,
You seen
last
the
night
changes?
I wanted to see how the exchange between Miss Levine and I looked, and that went all right, so I'm happy.
That's fine, go ahead.
All right, motion approved.
Okay, and there's a second? Second. Okay, we're both
Both of them.
Yeah.
of them. Okay, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
I have also one more addition. Under Administrator, I'd like to put on the agenda and authorize Medical Mutual to be our third party for health insurance, and I'll have Susan talk to it about that when we get to it.
Okay.
Zoning department, and Tim?
Good evening. You'll recall about a month and a half ago, I requested permission to send 3 cases from the zoning department down to the prosecuting attorney's office to have a mailing sent out one final time. Those mailings have been sent out, and today the legal counsel is recommending that we take legal action. And the first resolution here is 11-187 for action against the property at 5825 Flanders Road. They attempted to send out mailings also. All of those have been returned, not answered. They are still non-compliance, so this resolution would authorize legal action.
What is legal action for this type of, I mean, do they put a fine on them? Do they try to, what are our options here? Because I read through the legal stuff and it just kind of said we are going to move forward with legal proceedings, but it doesn't say, number one, I kind of would like to know what they're in violation of. I mean, I think that's important to know. And I mean, and then to know what we're going after. It appeared, I didn't...
We're going after complaints.
It appeared that all 3 of them were vacant and foreclosed on or in the process.
One is not, for sure.
Which one is that?
That's the one on Green Acre.
That did look like it had a fresh car in the driveway, but the house still looked a little rough.
But it's been, the garage was recently repaired.
Was it?
Yeah.
And I noticed that was in like a Unity Trust or some sort of strange entities was the owner? Is that, or Divine something or other out of Texas?
I'm not sure if that's the one.
Maybe that was Bilby Way.
I think it was Bilby Way.
Okay. Well, so what, we take this to legal action, what are we doing with them? Suing them for a couple grand, or?
No, what we'll do is they'll institute court action, and we'll give it one more shot to negotiate compliance, bringing them into compliance. If they refuse and it goes to court, then we bring $500 a day fine against them.
Is that put on as a lien onto the property?
Oh, yeah.
So during foreclosure, we'll be listed in the suit. If you have any, you have a title company that does that kind of work to make sure, or an attorney that does the searches to find out where they're at in the foreclosure process?
You know, I would assume the prosecuting attorney office would do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So you think that will require? If you go back, that was good,
Yeah, I mean, they all definitely looked in disrepair, and all three of these started from a neighborhood complaint or something along those lines. And the
They all
complaint's
did.
usually a vacant house, starting to get run down. Okay.
Want to do them all together?
I might add that this is just, I'll use the term, gives us the stick.
Okay.
And Tim will still negotiate with people, but this gives us a stick that if they don't want to, start the process and that we can have to go to court.
It's not for lack of effort on your end or our end.
No, I've had maybe 4 of them that have gone to court. Most of the time, people, once they understand,
That this could happen to them, they're going to, and like I said, Tim, we try to work with them. Our goal is to get people done. That's our goal.
I'd like to offer Resolution 11-187, authorizing the suit enforcing township zoning on 5825 Flanders Road.
Who seconded that? Kevin. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes. I'd like to offer Resolution 11-186, authorizing the suit enforcing township zoning on 6059 Greenacre.
Second?
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes. I'd like to offer Resolution 11-188, authorizing suit enforcement, township zoning at 5150 Bilby Way.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
Okay.
our report didn't get into the computer this week, so we'll have it the next meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
And you'll get that report onto the website as soon as possible?
Everything's going to be, hopefully everything will be on the website.
That's what I'm looking for.
Next item on agenda is the Public Works Department, and Greg has a couple of resolutions, and then, like I said, we'll discuss the bids we received.
Good evening. Couple of items that were budget in the 2011 year. Recommending Resolution 11-191, authorization to purchase roadside tractor mower.
Which one is that up there?
Keep scrolling down, please.
You want to see the actual motion, the resolution?
I want to see which piece of equipment that is up there, how much the price is.
Actually, that's why I color-coded it. It's the,
46,468.
down at the bottom is the total of $5,286. If you scroll down further, Jim.
Yep.
There you go.
So that's just for the mower?
That includes the trade-in, yes. And it's on the state purchase, State of Ohio purchase agreement.
So what kind is it?
It's a John Deere.
Is it down here? Oh, is that it up there?
What do you use it for?
This is roadside mowing along right-of-way areas. We're obligated to provide this type of mowing 3 times a year by ORC. We try to actually get out 4 times, and it helps us with sight distance clearing, and our insurance carrier likes to see that too, that we're maintaining sight distance areas and such.
Do we have an old one?
Yes, we
Are you
do.
going to put that for sale then, or is that, we're going to still use both of them?
It's trading.
No, sir, it's all trade-in.
Okay, this is trade-in price.
That's what it's trading.
I got it, okay.
You know I don't like spending money, but offer resolution 11-191 authorizing to purchase roadside tractor mower.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes, I guess.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Next item, recommending resolution 11-192, authorization to advertise for a mechanic.
I'll authorize resolution 192, authorization to advertise for mechanic position in the blade.
Second.
Now we can discuss that.
What, are we replacing somebody, are we adding?
I envision shortly one of our mechanics retiring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This will be a replacement. It won't increase.
We don't have to hire him, you just can get the position ready if we do need someone.
Yeah, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
And last item, another item that was budget in the 2011 budget is authorization to purchase a pickup truck. We are trading in 2 pickup trucks, and we're transferring the stake body bed from one of the older vehicles over to the new pickup truck. So this is basically, we're just purchasing what's called a chassis.
Chassis and a cab.
Yes. Again, and we're reducing the size of our fleet with this as well. So quotes are submitted from both Chrysler Ford and Dave White Chevrolet, about a 10% difference between the two. And Dave White Chevrolet was the cheaper of the two.
Did they have a sale? Frank called me about a sale they had on the 4th. Was it still more expensive than the Chevy?
Yes, yes, sir.
Just asking, I didn't get it. Because he was screaming at me about it, trying to say, well, he says, Greg, go look at it.
Offer resolution 11-193 authorizing to purchase pickup truck. From Dave White.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
The last item, we opened bids Monday morning, yesterday, for the yard waste drop-off site bids. Between the administrator and I, we are reviewing those bids, and we'll have a recommendation for you at the next meeting.
Yeah. We have a couple of possibilities other than just with these bids. We'll come up with those recommendations.
And we're still looking at kind of a blended, like definitely we're gonna keep, again, I got a couple emails, so I think people are getting confused at we're trying to do here, but we're gonna continue to pick up leaves, obviously, we have to. And then we're just going to limit the stick pickup to maybe once, maybe twice, and that will be part of the discussion at next meeting, and people will have the ability to take their stuff and drop it off if they live in the township.
Something like that, sir. We don't have to pick up leaves. It's not a requirement.
No, but I'd like to keep my job or keep my stoves from my windows.
I'm not going back to leaf burning, but
As Greg said, we'll come up with some different scenarios next meeting.
Yes.
After we review these bids and make some recommendations.
Greg, in your budgets, when you presented those budgets last year, you put a lump sum to the pickup. Will you be able to, I know it was a different year last year, but any way you can break that down so we'll be able to compare apples to apples here with that, would be awesome.
Leaf pickup.
No, excluding leaf, right, excluding leaf pickup, but the
The brush pickup and the...
Yeah, the whole, this
Chris-
plan of it all.
Right, and last year we also picked up Christmas trees too.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Mr. Huffman, this is what's called sandbagging, where you sit and wait till you throw all your expensive purchases in at the end of the year, and you look great all the way along with your budget, and now...
This doesn't come out of his operating budget, this comes out of capital.
Okay,
And
okay,
there's plenty of money in there.
okay.
don't say plenty of money, just say there's enough money to go.
The next item is the fire department, and we'll start out with this monthly report. Shorten.
I will be brief. Good evening. You have before you the monthly report for October of 2011. On page 2, you'll see that we're just slightly down in our fire service calls from last year, 2010. On page 3, our rescues are again slightly down from 2010, but the total calls for the year 2011 versus 2010 is about a 400 incident response difference. On page 4, our mutual aid incidents. I know that every time I report this, you're concerned about how many times we go into other municipalities and how many times we receive mutual aid. Happy to say that in October, it was a 3-3 tie, basically. We provided mutual aid to Springfield Township and twice, and to Richfield Township once. One was a fill-in at the McCord Road, the McCord Springfield Station 51 was a fill-in while they had a structure fire, and then the next run we actually went on a run for them. We received mutual aid 3 times, twice from Springfield, once for a transport, and once from Toledo for an injury accident on Reynolds and Central Avenue. That was the day where we had 5 separate accidents going on at the same time, so we requested a heavy squad, an engine, and a transport unit from Toledo that ended up transporting one of the victims from the accident scene. On page 5, our community risk reduction, Fire Prevention Week was in October. We did 17 public education events, 3 station tours, and a couple static displays for the children for Fire Prevention Week. Deputy Chief Froelich reviewed 12 plan reviews, did 3 home inspections. Under public relations, I attended the Ray of Hope banquet at Central Park West, and we also attended the Walk of Light, the annual Red Ribbon celebration at Northview High School, which was had to be inside this year because of the weather. And then I participated in a chocolate chip eating contest, judging contest, not eating contest, judging contest at Oakley Village. And on page 6, the paramedics were back in the continuing education again. That was the last month in October. They have November and December off, so you'll see no reporting on that in November and December. They went ahead and concentrated on electrocardiograms, and they also were trained on the King Vision intubation device, which is actually a small handle with a TV screen on it, so when we go to introduce a tube into somebody's lungs to breathe for them, now we have a little TV screen that we can actually view the field and put the tube right time, every time in the right spot. Also, the crews tested our annual hose testing, which we do every fall. Crews went ahead and tested 17,000 feet of hose at no cost to the township. They did it all on duty. And page 7 is racing for the recovery. We had individuals from the fire department that actually ran a 5K run in their full turnout gear, except the boots. They wore tennis shoes. Lieutenant Steve Kahan was the fastest in 20 minutes, but everybody made it through. The individuals in the picture were Lieutenant Mike Safarowitz, paramedic firefighter Andy Reese, paramedic firefighter Mike Cook, paramedic firefighter Greg Wilcox, Lieutenant Steve Kahan, he's the one that finished the fastest in about 20 minutes, firefighter paramedic Craig Kapersky, and Lieutenant Ralph DeShutler. Ralph is the oldest of the group. The next 2 pages are just a couple shots of them coming to the finish line. They look fresh as daisies as they cross. The last page is the bonfire, Northview High School bonfire that we attended to make it safe so nobody would get burnt. We had an engine company stand by during the event. And that's all I have for the monthly report, unless you have any questions.
I do.
Yes, sir.
False alarms are up.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Some of the false...
Are they still coming from over at
Lord's College?
Lord's College?
Actually, the incidents that we're running at Lord's College are not false alarms anymore. We're starting to run mostly food on the stove. I asked the, what do you call them, at the dorms? Resident assistants, the RAs, to try to teach these kids how to cook, because they're leaving the food on the stoves and playing their Game Boys and things and causing the alarms to go off. A lot of times false calls are due to the weather systems and patterns that come through, where we have a surge, a storm surge that comes through, it drops a lot of false alarms.
Okay. Chief, were you planning on, I didn't look at your link this afternoon, but putting that monthly report on your website?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
That will be on the website.
Thank you.
Also on the agenda, you'll see that I have two other issues. One is discuss a fee schedule. If you remember back last year when we were talking about this year's budget, I discussed a possible fee schedule that we can go ahead and start per the Ohio Revised Code for some of the things that we do, such as tent permits, inspections, burn permits. There's a whole array of things that the Ohio Revised Code allows us to do. I have a working schedule of that. It's in draft form. I plan on giving it to you next week, so you can take a look at it. So possibly we can take action maybe in December to go ahead with the fee schedule. In that fee schedule, we do have a fee for false alarms. If we were to go out to the business 4 times in a calendar year, the state of Ohio says we can charge them $100 to go out. This encourages the commercial buildings to not let us maintain their systems, but to have the alarm companies come in and actually take care of the false alarms, or take care of why the things are going on.
Is that pretty typical with other fire departments?
Yeah, other fire departments, Toledo Fire Division gives you 2. So that's pretty typical to a lot of the other fire departments around.
Same with burning permits and the building?
Yes, sir. Same thing with the burning permits, tent permits, plan reviews. In fact, when somebody comes to us with a plan for us to review, for Mike to review, they ask us right up front, how much do we owe you? And we say it's free. They say, you're the first one that we run into that's free. So that is pretty typical. We are planning on going either what the Ohio Revised Code allows us or less. The idea is not to fund the fire department with these fees, but yet, if we go out to a business to inspect it, and we've been there 6 times, and the business owner still hasn't taken care of the violation, we're tying up fire crews going back to one business 6 times when they can be going to other businesses. But I'll give you a full pamphlet on the fee schedule that you can look over, and any changes, obviously, would be open to any changes or any adjustments you'd like to make on it.
Do you have the number of times, like, it would be applicable, whether how many burning permits we put out a year, or how many inspections we do? Could we...
Sure.
And it doesn't have to be an exact number, but a ballpark would be
Sure.
interesting to see.
Are we talking a couple $1,000 or $20,000?
Yeah.
So you want burn permits, tent permits?
Whatever we plan on charging a fee for,
Sure.
and certainly if it's one time a year, but if it's, 50, 60 times a year, then I certainly, everybody else is doing it, I guess. It doesn't necessarily make it right, but I would like to know the number,
Okay. Yes, sir.
see how relevant it is.
I'll provide that information to you next. The other thing I had on any other questions about the fee schedule? The other thing I had on the agenda was the adoption of the fire code. The State Fire Marshal's Office has, this fire code started in 2010. It was going to be the new 2010 fire code. Unfortunately, there have been some hang-ups with it, so now we're calling it the 2011 fire code. And hopefully, they told us it will be out sometime before December. So once that code comes out, the trustees will have to adopt a resolution to adopt that fire code. We'll have to advertise for 2 weeks in the newspaper, have a copy at the fire station so people can come and take a look at it, and then we'll enact it 30 days after you voted in. So that is coming up, and hopefully I should have it again in December.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, also, for those fees, I think one of the things you're looking for is like a total.
Yeah, I mean, get a handle on it, in terms of what we're talking about, I guess.
The next department is the police department. They have a monthly report.
Good evening. I'll go over this briefly, at least as far as the numbers, because the numbers are there before you. In October, we had 1,363 calls for police service and 1,228 911 calls. Those are down somewhat significantly from August. As the weather gets colder,
usually we get less calls. Fire oftentimes gets more calls, and we get less calls. It just happens to work that way. The next page calls for service. As I said, the police department had 1,363. That brings us to the year-to-date figure that you see there. And again, we're actually down a little bit from this time last year, although, as you'll see, we are up in reports. You can see the citation number there in the year-to-date, the property damage accidents. Property damage crash reports, interestingly, we're up quite a few, but thank goodness, the more serious, the injury crash reports, we're down a lesser amount, but we're still down in that number. Of the offense reports, burglaries are really up this year. In fact, we actually, in just going through the overtime today and some things, we solved 4 burglaries over the weekend. The detectives put something together as far as 4 burglaries. Some of the ones that were occurring up north, District 3, District 4. But as you can see, our burglaries are up. I don't know if that's a sign of the times. I think it's more economically related and maybe just coincidental as opposed to years ago when it was the crackheads or the people that were addicted to drugs and such. DVs, domestic violences, we're up there. There's no predictor of that. That's a very random type thing. The OVIs were down 12. The thefts were down 43, but overall, all the other reports, we're up 52 reports. So, we're up and down different places. I wouldn't say there's any real pattern there. Thank goodness there's not a pattern up with increasing crimes. Again, the numbers are there before you for the detective case assignment. I'll just note the number that we, from previous months and from October's assigned cases, they totaled 60 reports for the month of October, or in the month of October. Next page, there's just a couple of interesting cases there. As far as a burglary, actually one on Ginger Trail. I don't know if you have that page, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. We identified a suspect there, okay, due to DNA that was left at the scene. And just like you see on TV, kind of a good deal, matched up with CODIS, the database for the DNA that they now collect from all prisoners or people incarcerated. So that led to an arrest. We ended up with another arrest out of High Oaks, pretty high dollar value there of housekeepers and domestic help and those type people going in and stealing once inside the residences. A theft of the pipe over on Silica, and again, these are just a couple of cases that show some clearance. Lastly, or somewhat lastly, as far as community affairs, one thing, I don't know if you've gotten any calls on it. I believe, Mr. Mahoney, you got an email on the one on Colgate, or we were copying back and forth and such. We're getting a lot of requests for the speed trailers. Thank goodness we have 2 of them now, and we're getting them out there. We did have one on Trotter, too, which is right across from Central Elementary School, so it's a somewhat important place, too. What we're finding, based on complaints, though, honestly, is that we don't have a problem with speeders in those areas. Colgate and Haddon, we have a problem with volume of traffic, because that's used as a cut-through. There's nothing we as a township that I know of can do anything about that. But as far as traffic enforcement and such, in both of those locations, we found that 99% of the vehicles were traveling 34 miles an hour or under, and 90% of them were at the exact speed limit or under. And typically in residential areas, it's a discretionary thing. Obviously, if we've got a problem, we'll write tickets for a little bit less, but typically we don't write tickets, if they're just going a few miles an hour over. Speedometers can be off depending on any number of factors and such. So in a nutshell, I anticipate some of these call-in complaints, we will identify a problem, but thus far, and to name it 2, Colgate and Trotter, we're not identifying a problem. So,
Chief, I know you got back to those guys, and thank you, but do you typically do that for when people give an inquiry, you give them back this information as to what we found? Is that something that you would maybe you could follow through with, so maybe you put an end to any of, if they understand what we found, or?
I try to.
I know you have, yes,
Yeah.
I know you have.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't want to accept, they don't believe it.
Right.
The speed trailer doesn't lie, and in the case with Colgate, actually, due to a wire being disconnected, it wasn't even showing the speed most of the time, but it was still recording the data. So people would have thought that it was even shut down, where, if they were going to drive fast, but the speed trailer was a deterrent, very quickly it wouldn't have been a deterrent anymore. But we still found, even with the light out, where it didn't look like it was recording or doing anything, the speeds were not a problem. So
that trailer registers all the cars at what the speed there is, and then you can get that data later?
the one trailer, the older of the two trailers, the brand new one we just got, doesn't record that. It's simply a display, a deterrent. Because it's quite a bit more money to obviously get the one with the computer that logs all that. But the older of the two trailers that we have, yes, it records all that data, which is really excellent in documenting, because a lot of times, there's a perception that there's a problem out there when you're standing out there, your kids are out there. School buses. We get complaints about school buses flying down residential streets, but school bus is so large and so loud, oftentimes they're not really driving that fast, but there's the perception that it's driving fast. So, it's really, really excellent for being able to identify where there's problems and where there's not. In October, as the chief said, I was also at the Walk of Light up in Northview, October 20th. We had the drug drop-off at our police station on October 29th. I think you all heard at the SCAT meeting that we had, or the breakfast and such, about a week ago in the morning, we collected 116 pounds of prescription drugs. And so that's an excellent program that we'll continue to do about twice a year. Okay, and usually it's identified that we'd like to do it in conjunction with Savannah City or with a total local effort. Halloween, I'm happy to report we had a nice quiet Halloween. Myself, Lieutenant Austin, Sergeant Whalen from Community Affairs, John Munch, and Jeff Matuszewski were all out on Halloween, so that we had as visible of a police presence. We drive around with like our rear oscillating emergency lights on, or I turn on the alley light so it kind of lights up the kids as you're going along the sidewalk and such. And it was a real quiet, real good night, and there's a real appreciation for that. In fact, I think in this packet there is an email, a copy of an email that I received from a resident on Sedalia. And it's a real nice letter, just, there it is, identifying that, that they had moved in from another community and that they hardly ever saw the police, and they're elated with the police presence, including Halloween, that they have living here in Savannah Township. And we try to do that every year with Halloween, and it's gone very well, and it's very rewarding when you're out there and you get all these parents, that are really grateful for you being out there. The BW3 operation, November 1st, kind of on the bubble with the month of October. That's been very successful. I think I explained it before. We're really in the process, and it's an ongoing process of trying to clean up our BW3s. A couple years ago, Maumee went through the same thing. Strangely enough, and I don't know why, and I wish it weren't true, there are no BW3s in Toledo, in the city of Toledo. They're in the suburbs. They're in Maumee. They're in the township. I suspect the problem would be down in Toledo, closer to home, if there were BWs down there. But it's been very successful. Just November 1st, you do not have this sheet. So as a result of that operation, we made 7 traffic stops, made 2 felony arrests, 8 misdemeanor arrests, issued 6 traffic citations, and in a total of 3 operations now, year to date, 20 traffic stops, 4 felony arrests, 39 misdemeanor warrant arrests, 11 traffic citations, More important, because of the drug dealing and some of the other stuff that's going on out there, we've seized, doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot for dope. 3 pounds, 2 ounces of marijuana, 3 grams of crack cocaine, 2 grams of powder cocaine, 1 gun, $3,270 worth of cash that hopefully we'll be able to hang on to. And we've identified 10 gang members. We've had our guy that works the FBI Fugitive Task Force, Officer Hunt, and our officer that actually works DEA with the DEA Task Force, come out and assist us along with DEA agents and such, and they know the players downtown. And they're telling us, hey, you know what, until you can get it cleaned up or send a message, you got them all coming out here now. So we'll continue to do that randomly here. We're skipping this week. I think we're going to hit it next week, right before Thanksgiving, with all the people in town, because the last thing I want is an incident down there, especially with, mostly good families from Sylvania Township, in that restaurant, and, have some terrible tragedy, shooting or any number of things. So we'll attempt to keep cleaning that up. Lastly, I had mentioned it before, it's now done. In the month of October, we did what we call our core training. I will tell you that it cost us quite a bit of overtime in being able to staff the road and still do this training, because we needed to get every officer of our 45 officers through it. It's 32 hours of training. I think that's just a list of a lot of our other training, but each officer received 32 hours, 4 days of training. We identified early on this year what was the most important areas. 1 day was taken up by our recertifications on our different, especially less lethal weapons, the ASP that we carry, which is our small nightstick, the taser, the pepper spray, and that sort of thing. And then some of the other training was being out on the range, some shooting, but especially familiarity with the long guns, with the rifles and the shotguns, because it's not every day that the officers pull that out of the patrol vehicles, thank goodness. And as in everything else, when you don't use something on a very regular basis, you're not as familiar with it. You want to make sure that they're very comfortable and very familiar with it. Probably the most important day was the 4th day. We did scenario-based training out at Owens, and we hit them with different situations. And it was all about kind of like what we call a street survival, officer safety thing, how they would react, what their response time was, if they acted appropriately, and that sort of thing. And it was very well accepted. My understanding is that was the favorite day, and the officers really got a lot out of it. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Just one comment, I hate to say, I told you so about the Pluto problems coming out here.
Oh, yeah, it's...
We're going to have to keep our eyes open, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
It's always been that way. We used to say when I started that you needed a passport to drive west of Talmadge Road. I don't know, now we got to be real careful in some of the things we say.
We have to have roadblocks and have a gas to get out here.
Yeah.
There you go. Charge admission into the township.
Under the administrator is the item I mentioned earlier that I want to add on as a resolution, and Susan, if you want to talk about that.
Late last week, we met with Medical Mutual, and we were able to get a quote from them to act as our third-party administrator. Currently, we have self-funded plans. We've had some administrative problems with them in the past, some problems with claims, and mostly that the vendors or the providers don't recognize who self-funded plans, who they are. So Medical Mutual did give us a quote. It comes up to be about $4,000 more a year for administrative cost, but by going with them as our TPA, we would be able to use their core network rather than their rental network, which we should see approximately a 5% savings on our claims. So we think that will more than make up for the extra administrative cost. We have put this before the Health Insurance Committee. They're all in favor of it and would like to recommend that we change our TPA to Medical Mutual effective January 1.
Okay, I'll offer Resolution 11-194. Authorize Medical Mutual as, not THRID, you got the word spelled wrong there, third-party health insurance administrator effective January 1st, 2012. So just change that one word.
Second. I would like, so, $1.4 million in claims, we're looking at saving 70 grand then in the,
I wouldn't say it's going to be 5% off every claim, but there are some of the larger claims that we will see some significant savings.
Great. Okay. Mr. Mahoney? Yes. Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine? Yes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the fiscal officer, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Sinclair.
Yeah.
Come on, all right. Well, we have our month-end analysis, and it's really on the board, so I'm not going to review it, but expenditures would, your standard percentage for expenditures would be 83.3, and as you can see, expenditures continue to run below that standard percentage, so that's a good thing. Our revenues are going to be close to 100%, but they should be, we think they might be slightly less than 100%, but it's still pretty good. Fire, you see fire is 92.7, but we're waiting for a CAT payment, and so, or no, an EMS contract payment, which should get it up to about 94.8, so it's close in that, and we basically have all of our money in. There's a little bit more money to come in, and so we really continue to anticipate expenditures are going to be below, running well below what we anticipated. That's the way it's kind of shaking out. And through October, we don't see any reason why it should change. And so, we're pleased with that in the fiscal department. All on well.
Looks good.
Very good. Thanks.
Congratulations to the department heads for keeping it in check.
They are doing it, and part of it, I think, is we budget a little, we've learned a lot, or I've learned a lot on budgeting, how we do it over time. By breaking out, by getting more detailed, it enables us, I think, to do a better job of monitoring the department heads and monitoring what expenditure requests that they get, and it just helps us to be more alert, I think. We continue to do a good job with the department heads on this, I have to say, and John is working with them too, and John understands finance as well, too, and so I think we're just doing better and better at it.
Watch every nickel.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, Jim, you want to pick up our resolutions for us?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to offer Resolution 11-189, the transfer of appropriations, and you can see the list behind you. The majority of those are payroll related, and if you'll remember correctly, pull back when we had increases the first of the year, I didn't ask for increase in appropriations in certain lines because I wanted to see whether we were going to have money left over in other line items towards the end of the year. And that's what this is, and I do have money left over, so I'm able to transfer within the fund and not increase the appropriation. So that's what I'm asking for there. And then the other ones are various items that we need to increase to end out to complete the year, or we're running a little short.
I'd like to offer Resolution 11-189, transfer of appropriations for the listed accounts.
Second?
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
I'm almost done here, 1 second. Get John, and then I'll make...
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes, I got it. Okay, I'm on my last one. I got the main quote, it's nice.
Resolution 11, I'd like to offer Resolution 11-190, appropriation of funds from the unencumbered balance to the encumbered balance.
Correct, this is in the capital equipment fund.
Okay. Is that a second?
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thanks. Open discussion, anybody have anything? Hearing of the public, did anyone sign in?
Never signed in.
Okay. Mr. Mahoney, I'd like to congratulate you on a very well-run campaign and certainly a great turnout, and I think the people spoke pretty loud and clear, and I'm glad it's over. And I wasn't even up for election, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Don't forget your colleague on your left.
I don't think your numbers, you ran a much, very good campaign as well for running out of polls, I will say that, I was impressed.
Well, thank you, sir. I did have a few comments. Yes. But I'll let it go since we're kind of saving for next time.
Okay, I'd like to offer a motion to adjourn at 7:45.
Mr. Mahoney? Yes. Mr. Haddad? Yes. Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Hey, Jim, it came up.
Are we, you came out finally?